Welcome back to the Marvel Movie Minute, a daily podcast which we disassemble a film from the Marvel Cinematic Universe into 1-minute segments and then examine it in obsessive and occasionally hilarious detail. I'm Kyle Olson from the Swashbuckling Ladies Debate Society podcast.
Hey, and I'm Rob Cabasco. And Kyle.
Yes, sir.
Did you know that a military command or order is a binding instruction given by a senior rank to a junior rank in a military context?
I did not, but that makes sense.
Thanks, Wikipedia, because that was very specific. I got to tell you this, in the whole idea of military orders, no other military movie order may be as famous or infamous as the order to not touch Santiago, which is peculiar unless...
Goddamn right I did.
Oh my God. Colonel Jessup. What the... Anyway.
I just watched that movie again, actually. And
Did
it
you
still
really?
holds up. Yes, A Few
yeah.
Good Men. Such a great movie.
That's
I believe
Rob Reiner?
Rob Reiner?
Yeah.
Rob Reiner directed that, and written by Aaron Sorkin, based on his original stage play. I believe the stage play does not have the same ending, though.
Oh.
I believe it gets the ending you would expect that exact situation to get, as opposed to the movie, which had to have a semi-heroic ending.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, look at orders. Neither of us have served in the military. We certainly thank all those who serve in whatever military nation of origin that is part of your citizenship.
That's right. My dad was Air Force, so
was my dad.
Right.
Yeah,
Oh,
both our
nice.
dads. Both our dads are Air Force.
They both served in Vietnam?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes. Oh, I didn't know that. We need to.
Luckily, my dad did not actually have to go all the way over. He was deployed to Germany, so he was at the forward operating base at Germany.
Oh,
so he never actually had to go all the way over.
My dad he did 3 tours in Vietnam.
Wow. Okay.
As he likes to say, he did one for himself and one for each of his sons, so that we were covered. Oh, I thank my dad for that, and I thank everybody who's served. No, but like orders, like, you think about like, oh, it's an order, right? And that's always like the trope, right, in movies or TV. Mm-hmm. No, I mean, when you're commanding officer, and if you're an officer who has the ability to give orders, because that doesn't necessarily, senior ranks don't all have that ability. But yeah, it's binding. Your job is to do it, or there are consequences. So that's a real thing. Why would I bring that up? Well,
because there's such a thing as a court-martial.
Yeah,
which hopefully we don't have to deal with here at minute 67 of Iron Man 2 from 2010, Director Jon Favreau. But we're not there yet, folks. First, we got to finish up a little bit of business here, because we still are in the Hammer laboratory, where Ivan has been trying to convince Justin that drones are better. So we're coming to the end. We pick up where we left off, which is the middle of a sentence. So Ivan had said, "Hey, man," which I just love when he tries to use like casual slang. Don't get too attached to things. He says, "Learn to," and then we pick up here, "let go."
Oh.
So Justin is swayed by this somehow, even though he's not totally like, oh, okay, sure, whatever you want to do, Ivan. Like he's still, but he is realizing he's not going to win this battle, so he just sort of backs off and he says, "These drones better steal the show, Ivan. You understand?" And as he's walking away, we just have on Mickey Rourke's reaction shot, "Better rock my world, Ivan." As Ivan's just like said, it basically gives nothing. Like, even though there's no one watching, he really could do a big like ugh or ugh, or like roll his eyes or something, but he doesn't. He's just like, "I'm more concerned with Bird."
Well, he's back to furthering the relationship with the new Boyd. No, right. I think what I like about this though is it really shows Ivan as kind of he only has one emotion, revenge. Mm-hmm. And this is all he's focused on, right? So
yeah, let's talk about that.
Sure.
So at this point, what is Ivan's plan and what is his motivation?
Okay, now as we know in this movie, there are questions connecting all the dots of Ivan's plan.
Yeah.
I think Ivan's plan is a one-step revenge plan, and I think he just rolls with it. I think he is just literally winging it, for lack of a better term. Oh, winging it. That's I'm bringing in the cockatoo just for that.
You tell him, Marina.
No, he really is. And I think in this situation, as we know what happens here in the final act.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's been given control of all of these. He's building an army of drones.
Yes.
He knows that there is going to be a big event that he is going to have control over them, or supposedly.
Yeah.
And he is kind of suspecting that Tony Stark is going to show up. That's all.
So, but his plan is still not kill Tony.
No, it's cause enormous chaos and mayhem as a result of Tony and embarrassment. It's humiliation, embarrassment. Oh, and I don't think it's to kill him. However, I think that may be an unintended consequence of his plans.
Okay.
Uh-oh. You look, I don't think you are convinced.
Well, my thing, as I was watching these minutes and thinking about this, and there's been a complaint amongst fans of all stripes about comic movies saying too many villains. Look what happened to Batman Returns. Too many villains. Look what happened to Spider-Man 2. Too many villains. And my thing is always like, no, don't be dumb. It's not doing villains. It's how they're used. So,
right.
like, for instance, like in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, there is the Rhino. And people are like, and there's also Green Goblin, and there's also, I mean, like, there's Electro. I mean, like, there's all this stuff going on. Okay, right, I got it. The Rhino doesn't deserve his own movie. Now,
right.
I know that's a controversial statement among Marvel fans, but there is a class system of villains. Now, when you're writing the comic book, you can do that. Like, you can basically like say this arc is all about the Rhino and like Spider-Man versus Rhino, and you're going to do that. In a movie, you can't really do that. There's certain characters who are like, you're never going to have a big tier movie that's going to be Spider-Man versus Rocket Racer. You know, Spider-Man versus Big Wheel. I'm using Spider-Man because like he has a much more recognizable ridiculous villains than Iron Man does. You know, Iron Man versus the Living Laser. Yeah, that actually sounds kind of cool, even though that's pretty much a third tier character. But there are certain ones that should not get equal time. So that what does that have to do with this? Not very much. But I just wanted to get that out there. So what I was looking at as I was thinking about that and that common argument and looking at this and like there's now we have two villains. What are we gonna do? Who is the villain of Iron Man 2? Is it Whiplash? Is it Justin Hammer?
Oh yeah, it's Whiplash. It's Ivan. He is the villain. Justin Hammer is an unwitting accomplice to that.
I submit to you, the villain of Iron Man 2
I know where you're going.
Tony Stark.
Yeah, it is. You're right. I see where you took me there, and I
see. I led you down the path.
No, the villain. Oh, see, when we get to the end of this,
no one does as much damage to Tony Stark in this as Tony Stark does.
That's kind of true. Yeah.
So these guys are kind of just like second and third.
This movie is what you're saying is this movie is so deeper than people give it credit for.
Is that what I'm saying?
Is that what you're saying? I mean,
was it intended? If it was intended, then sure. But if it was unintended, then
okay. But one of the things I love though about this exchange though with Ivan is the duplicity of everything he's saying.
Right.
Oh, like the conversation with Justin. This better steal the show.
Yeah.
It will steal the show.
It's all people will be talking about. I promise.
I mean, it's just so funny. And the whole thing of letting go, like, as we talked about in the last minute, this whole like, you told me to let go. Well, guess what? You're going to be letting go whether you like it or not. Like, I think that's kind of cool. Like, I think it's foreshadowing, it's irony, it's everything mixed together. I like it. Sam Rockwell makes me so happy.
Yeah, I know. Every time he shows up, he's great.
Yeah.
So now the movie transitions over to back to Edwards Air Force Base, but we're not going to exactly like that because there actually is a deleted scene. Now I don't know exactly where this deleted scene would go, but chronologically it's right in here somewhere. It would probably be right after Rhodey arrives,
right.
But so because in this deleted scene he's wearing the suit, so it would be right after. But I didn't know exactly where we were going to talk about it, so I thought here would be a good place before we get to Rhodey now. So this is, if you look it up online, I believe it's called, if you look at Iron Man 2 deleted scene, War Machine. So it's him basically having a debrief with all of the assembled soldiers about what's going on. And so he's saying, like, this is, like, we have a prototype Iron Man suit. Like, this is, what we need to do is weaponize it. We need to get it ready for what we have to do. And also, I want all decisions about this suit to be going through me because I am the only one who can operate this. So all decisions about this, all requests on this have to come through me. Is everyone clear on that? And at the time, everyone there is a subordinate to him. So that's an order. So yes, of course, sure, I can do that. Until what happens in the next scene. But then of course, it ends with a gag too, because like he asks them to get him out of the suit as he's talking, and we have a tech come up behind him with like basically a drill to because remember this is the Mark II, so this is the one that had the big arm gantry thing that had to like assemble, had to build all that. So now they're gonna have to figure out how to get it out, and so as they do it, he's talking about all the work Tony Stark had done is, including defenses. And as he does it, the guy who's trying to drill out of it gets zapped and knocked across out of frame. Basically, some kind of deterrent system is actually built into the suit and knocks that guy out. So it's a fun little gag too. I wish this had been in the movie.
Yeah, but it needed to be very quickly after he walks into the hangar after landing at the
because he's standing there with the same guys in the suit, no helmet on.
Right.
Probably, it's tucked away or something.
And it looks really good. Well, and it's kind of neat, too, because this is the only time we see Don Cheadle in the Mark II suit before it's changed with no helmet on, which is kind of cool because it's a practical effect. It actually looks pretty good. There's some weird wonkiness, though, with the CGI that's unfinished. Yeah. Depending on the shot.
You can still hear the clinking of the plastic.
Right. Exactly.
That's obviously the suit he's wearing is not a metal suit.
My favorite. Okay. And obviously, it's kind of the dialogue is fine, but it is kind of. He does come off a little bit whiny, and remember, nobody does anything without my approval, which is fits. But he's overselling that a little bit. But my favorite part of this is when the tech comes in the back, and the tech literally looks like Bob Hoskins too, right? Comes in the back, gets blown away, and then when Rhodey looks back at all the soldiers, the one soldier, Alan, his name's Alan. He just has this look of horror looking on the ground of the guy, like
sizzling.
Dude, I don't want to touch this. Yeah. It's really funny. And again, we always love the humor that's in MCU movies. This is kind of humor that works. I think you're right. This in the movie, I think this would have made sense, and it would have been a nice little moment of frivolity.
I would like him to go further and say that it's like bio-locked to me, so no one else can. No one else should.
That's the problem is that the dialogue comes off a little bit just too haughty instead of being. There's a reason for it, and there's a rational reason to why this is like this. Yeah,
and there's a problem here that will become a problem in Iron Man 3 as well because of this exact thing. Because Tony Stark apparently did not really think this decision through. So, but. Meanwhile, back in the actual movie, we come back to Edwards, and we have Rhodey now out of the War Machine suit, but in his uniform. He slides a big metal sliding doorway, and he's there with somebody else. And so this is General. So this is an actor. He only has 4 credits on IMDb, and you're like, what's a guy with 4 credits on IMDb doing in Iron Man 2? Oh, because he's Command Sergeant Major Eric L. Haney, one of the founding members of Delta Force. This is our dads were having a tough time in Vietnam, but he was in it. All right. He got involved in Hollywood because he wrote a book about Delta Force, and he struck up a friendship with David Mamet, of all people, while they were working together on Spartan. And so from that friendship came the series The Unit. So he is actually credited as the co-creator of The Unit, and he was with that show on CBS for a long time. A lot of great actors in that. So here he is in one of his 4 roles, and basically he's doing what he had done, which is he's playing a military commander. Now, obviously, he was Army, and now he's playing Air Force. So I'm sure his compatriots got a lot of ribbing to him about that, because if you don't know, there's a lot of rivalry between Army and Air Force. I worked with a guy for about 3 years who was Army, and he had a lot of things to say about the Air Force.
Yes, most of them deserved. And we say that because our dads were there for us.
Yes, exactly.
Of course.
So the general says, And so basically they're looking at the War Machine armor, even though we don't see it. So like we're meant to see it. So why not save on the CG by not having it in there, like or having it have practical suit? It's just unbelievable. This ought to get the Senate off my word we can't say on the show without earning a rating. He says it's functional. Rhodey says fully mission capable. He says good. Get Hammer down here to weaponize it, which is always like Rhodey going, oh, but of course he has to be military. He says, sir, which is like, really? We have to get Justin Hammer down here to do?
Right.
But Hammer's still their guy. Tony left, and so Hammer filled that spot. So, says Justin Hammer's making a weapons presentation at the expo. We'd like this to introduce it. So it's like already like the pieces are coming together. He says, sir, I don't believe that the expo... Colonel, the world needs to see this fast. We've got to make this happen. And so Rhodey's still like, well, yes, General, but it's also an order.
Right.
Yes, sir. And this is exactly the point I was making before, because you can have Rhodey saying all the stuff he wants about, it's me, it has to be me, I'm going through me. Yeah, the General says it can be whoever he wants it to be. Like, This is what you're going to do. You're going to get the guy who Tony Stark hates, who is his rival, to come in here and give him access to all of Tony Stark's technologies. Way to go, Rhodey.
Right.
A real American hero.
I couldn't think of, I was trying to think of how do I get Rhodey to fit in G.I. Joe is there, but I have to figure that out. Okay. So and we talked about, we see the suit, we in terms of the set, this is inside the hangar, obviously. Yep. We know that they were filming actually at Edwards Air Force Base.
Giant American flag against the back wall.
Giant. I think those are a couple F-16s.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah. And nothing else really. I mean, just obviously general support crew and stuff going on. When they look inside the looks like an armament closet or a part of the hangar, because it's concealed, it's locked, but it's got some tarps and stuff over the grating so that it's obviously what's in there is hidden. Mm-hmm. And when you see the suit hanging there, you can kind of see just in the darkness of the outside of the rest of the room, there's like boxes where armaments and other things are being stored. So obviously this is an important area that not a lot of people get to. I thought that was cool. And it was also cool to see a bunch of the cables and stuff coming off the arc reactor in the suit. Yeah.
You got a power generator. Why not use it to power some stuff?
I was going to say I think that's kind of funny, that whole idea that they're monitoring / they're probably using the energy for a day and using it.
I mean, it is a generator.
Yeah, exactly. Now, okay, so here's a question. So what is the rest of Rhodey's sentence that I don't believe that the expo is what?
Is the best place to show off the War Machine armor to the public for the first time when we've had it for a day.
Yeah, is that okay?
We're gonna get into the timeline here in a little bit,
right?
But yeah, it's like we just got it, man. Like,
okay,
this is like I remember what celebrity it was that got a Bugatti or whatever, and then wrapped it around a tree like within an hour of it. Yeah.
No, I think that's a good point. I think to me it was very much like he's saying, hey, the show is not we're military. We're not a show.
Also true. That's very Rhodey.
Right? I mean, that's Tony. And that maybe be part of the
Rhodey doesn't blast AC/DC as he comes flying into a combat zone.
So I think that's what he was I think he was trying to imply that, my friend Tony does all that. And it's one of the things that really ticks me off about him. We're not a show. We're not a part of that. So
he'd probably play Wild Blue Yonder.
Oh,
like, oh no, the terrorists have it. What are we gonna do?
Or the right stuff. Just the right stuff.
War Machine. Yeah, right.
That's awesome.
That's slow-mo. He doesn't have time for that.
Yeah. No, interesting, but yeah, no, and obviously we get the whole moment here where he's like, yeah, that's an order, and the guy playing General, is it Meade? Is the character's name? Mm-hmm. It just does it really well. Like, shut up. Do your job. I got more important stuff to worry about. Get out of here. That's great.
Says, good work, Colonel. You've made your country proud. And Rhodey says, thank you, sir. And then as he walks away, Rhodey's standing there like, oh God, what have I done? He's great. It's like you can see just like the clenched jaw, which is basically saying like, oh, this is gonna be bad.
No, you gotta just, whenever you watch this movie, just pause it on this, because he salutes
Yep.
And then he does a slow close of the eyes, and when they reopen, the eyes are looking at the ground like, man, the thing I don't like about this job.
So obviously this was later on that day. Like, this is supposed to be the same day as when he delivered on here. So I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about like where we're at with time and stuff too. So it's time to say, meanwhile, in the MCU. All right, so we're going to talk about. So like, I think the last time we talked about this is when Black Widow was hired. So I'm going to kind of just do a running timeline. So we're in May of 2010. So we're going to roll back the clock a little bit so we can catch up to sort of what's been going on everywhere else. So on May 14th was when General Ross, another general, ambushed Bruce Banner in Rio de Janeiro, and they had the fight in the bottling plant. That's when the Hulk first emerged. That was when he had been 100 and... Oh, geez, we should know this because 190. That's right. 190 days since he had been seen. The Hulk had been seen. And so now, obviously, there was. And there's Blonsky and all that stuff. If you want to know more about that, go back to season 2 and listen to us talk about the Hulk for, hours. So then May 15th, then Bruce wakes up in Guatemala. And starts to make his journey up. He basically traveled 500 miles in one night. So then he begins his trek through Central America up into Mexico to get back into the United States, to get back to Culver University. On the 20th, he's at Chiapas. That's where he's having to beg for food. That's the lonely man, him pulling up his pants, if you remember that. So on the 21st is when Natalie Rushman first showed up. So that's where we had there. The 23rd was Monaco, which they refer to as the Duel of Monaco, which I really enjoy. Then at the same time, that's also the night then Tony visits Ivan in prison, and the sharks will feed. That's the whole thing in there. The 24th was when they're traveling back. Justin breaks Ivan out through various means. We have they have their conversation. Again, this is where I get a little bit like, really, the same day? Like, he breaks him out, flies him across. They have their conversation in the hangar, flies him across, and he starts working on the same day. Like, wow, okay. Then they have their conversation in there, and then so Ivan is working on his stuff. So on the 29th of May, S.H.I.E.L.D. is now monitoring Bruce Banner, Jane Foster, and Tony Stark. Yeah, we haven't really talked about much what's going on in the Southwest region, but that's happening right now too. Nick Fury has informed that Tony Stark has 72 hours to live due to his palladium poisoning. Oh, that's interesting. I think that's from the comic. I couldn't find that anywhere else. And that's also the 29th is Tony Stark's birthday party. So that's when the big the fight happened there. So now here we are. We're on May 30th of 2010. And so this morning, Jane Foster contacted Eric Selvig to have him come out because some weird stuff's going on in New Mexico and she needs his help. In Asgard, that's right, we're everywhere else. So Thor's coronation, because he was about to take over the throne, got interrupted because somebody's attacking in the treasure vault. And it turns out the frost giants were let in there, and they were all then killed by the Destroyer. I'm sure that won't come up again. Destroyer is just a one-use thing, and then you just put it back in its thing. Thor then is enraged and wants to go to war, but so we'll see how that goes. And then that's happening at the same time as this conversation, where they're at Rhodey lands and shows off the suit, and then does things, and then. Then meanwhile, across the other thing, Tony Stark is having a interesting coffee conversation with what Jon Favreau referred to as his sponsor. So he was saying like, oh yeah, so like it's afterwards, like, is this how you want to live your life? Like you basically you talk to your sponsor and go like, so is this working for you? This what you're doing now, or you want to like come back and listen to me for a little while and let me help you out? So there obviously this day is a long day. So there's more stuff that happens on here, but here we are. This is May 30th, 2010, as all this is going on, basically on the same day.
Okay, amazing. You forget. It is incredible that so much of these initial movies of the MCU are all happening at the same time.
Yeah.
That is really, pun intended, incredible. Yeah. But and we've talked about this in past episodes and various things about there's some really great work that's been done in the comic books to kind of intertwine all of this stuff. So I just think it's incredible to see like how all of this was coming together and all leading towards what ultimately is eventually the first Avengers movie.
Yeah.
It's just brilliant. And I know some of it's been retconned. Some of it is was not intentional as they were doing it. You know what? I don't care. It's really a fantastic story.
Yeah. And and to see them all lined up like this. There is something online. I'm not sure if it's still available, but there was an idea. And this guy had the thought like, hey, these are all interconnected, kind of like a TV show. So he recut all of Phase 1 into 1 hour episodes.
Oh my!
And had them chronologically happen. Yeah. And so it was really interesting to see them cut back and forth between they would go from like the battle in Monaco, and then they cut to Bruce Banner like waking up after his fight, that kind of like it's interesting juxtaposition like that. The only problem I watched the first sort of season of it. Well, the problem is I'm like, by the time you get to Avengers is like perfect. Like you shouldn't do anything, but he cut that one too, and I was like, "Oh no!"
Well, no, wait. Why would you? What would you cut?
Why
into
would
Avengers?
you? Why would you just cut it into 2 pieces? But no, he actually re-edited Avengers too, and I was like, "Oh, you've lost me, sir." But it was an interesting experiment because about what he chose to put in and what he chose to leave out, and then how you sort of put scenes next to each other and how it changes their meaning and stuff too. So it's called MCU TV. Like I said, he did it as a pure fan project, and he put it up there like saying, "Hey, Marvel, here's a fun way to to take your stuff and see it in a new way." And of course, it's by the lawyers. I'm sure that they weren't entirely excited about that.
Okay, hold
but
on.
it is definitely worth checking out if you can find it.
If you can find it, but what an amazing idea to offer that on Disney Plus.
I know. That's basically what he was saying. He's like, I'm not like the movies are the movies, but what a way to repurpose what you already have and see it in a new light by doing it like this. I mean, and he did it purely out of love. Like he was hosting all the stuff himself, not making a dime on it.
In these times, which I'm assuming even when you listen to this, we will still be in those times. That's a brilliant thing to do.
Yeah. And also it's interesting to see that these things, we think of these movies as being so directorial driven. When you have them next to each other, you don't really notice.
It's
like
just
when you pull the pieces out, it's not a wildly different thing in terms of like, whoa, it's not like you have like a hugely wildly color palette and then suddenly there's a dull one. No, they pretty much have they stay within the same sort of range of each other. They don't look as different as you think they do. So I would say when you get to something like Captain America Winter Soldier and like Guardians of the Galaxy, okay, now there you go. You're going to be cutting back and forth. You're going to have some big differences. But for the first group of them, not really as
it's
visually diverse as you would think.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Can you imagine? We can imagine like splicing this with like Ragnarok. It would be.
Yes,
like,
exactly.
Right.
Yeah, because actually, let's see I was good about deep dive on the Guardians of the Galaxy continuity because that actually takes place. But we'll get into that when we get into that.
We'll get into that. Yeah.
So that is there, and with on Rhodey's sort of good God, what have I done expression? That is where literally the minute comes to an end.
It's a perfect cut right there.
Yeah.
Where do we go after this? What other conversation could we explore?
Maybe one on Facebook, because we have our own Facebook group.
Oh, yes.
It's called the Marvel Movie Minute Next Real Film Hot Executive Lounge. So if Facebook is more your style, then we're there too. So we're happy to talk about any type of Marvel stuff, Marvel news, or or your favorite Marvel films, or what you think the real plan of Ivan Vanko is at this point. We're happy to hear it. So hop on over there. You have to ask for membership because we're trying to keep out the bots and the weirdos and the Russians. No, not just
more bot than weirdo.
Bots. Yes.
Yeah.
You can find it at facebook.com/groupsex the next reel. Make your Facebook experience 5% better.
And that's a great 5%. At this day, I will take 5%.
Right? It's like every little bit helps.
Exactly.
It's like a boost in a video game.
A power up. That's tiny one, but it's something.
That's right. It's a tiny one, but it makes that much of a difference. So we'll be back here for minute 68. We're going to find out that Odin isn't the only wise, one-eyed man. You don't want to miss it. Enough said.
Bye.